This is the BBQ Central Radio Show, which is recorded live each Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The BBQ Central Radio Show is being brought to you by the BBQ Guru, the original creators of automatic temperature control devices, now offering 4 different models for you to choose from. Rest easy knowing that the BBQ Guru is controlling your pit temperature so you can get on with your life. Visit bbqguru.com or call 800-288-GURU for more information. And by Fred's Music and Tasty Licks BBQ Supply, your online barbecue and grilling superstore. From cookers to grills, wood chips and chunks, and everything in between. Also be sure to try the Tasty Licks barbecue brand of rubs and sauces. Check Fred out online at tastylicksbbq.com. And by Stephen DeFranco Jewelers. Located in beautiful Willoughby, Ohio, Stephen DeFranco Jewelers is a family-owned and operated business looking to service the great folks of the barbecue and grilling world. Get free shipping and big discounts by mentioning my name and the term Barbecue Brother. Check out their inventory by visiting StephenDeFranco.com. And by Butcher Barbecue, with 30 years of experience in retail, wholesale, meat markets, food service, and customer service. Using that experience, everything they do and sell at Butcher's Barbecue comes from real-world knowledge. Check out their award-winning spices, sauces, marinades, and injections by visiting ButcherBBQ.com. Always trust your butcher. And by Draper's Barbecue, a third-generation barbecue company located in western Kentucky between Memphis and Kansas City. Their line of products represents both cities as well as the flavor profiles of Shane's home. Pick up their smokin' sauce and AP rub today by visiting DrapersBBQ.com. And by Barbecuer's Delight Wood Pellets, making pellets since 1994, 2/3 oak, 1/3 flavor wood, giving you that sweet, succulent smoke that you're looking for on your meat, both for grills and bullet-style smokers, and of course, in larger quantities for your pellet-fed smokers. Find them at bbqrsdelight.com.
This is Maddie Rempe from Cleveland, Ohio, and you're listening to BBQ Central.
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Welcome to the BBQ Central Show, the show where we talk about all things that are important in the world of barbecue. From big-name interviews with competitors on the barbecue circuit, grill manufacturers and pit makers, to advice on cooking brisket and ribs. You'll find it all right here on the BBQ Central Show. Your host, Greg Rempe, is a backyard barbecue and grilling fanatic and loves to talk about his passion, which many of us share together. You can learn more about barbecue and grilling by visiting the website, thebbqcentral.com. Now, let's get in the smoke. Here's your program host, Greg Rempe.
Hey gang, welcome to another edition of the Really Big BBQ Central Show. I'm so happy to be here. So honored. Thank you. Hey, welcome in. It's the Really Big BBQ Show, broadcasting live and direct from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio, rapidly becoming known as the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Do-rag back on and all. Billy gave it back to me. He said, enough of this monkeying around, get the do-rag back on. So here I am, all allowed to wear it once again, rock the stars and stripe. It's kind of crooked, I think. I can't tell. Nevertheless, we're here. It's Tuesday. Happy to have you aboard. A couple ways to get in touch with the show if you're so inclined. 877-448-0433. Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com is the email address. If you want to get in touch with the show, happy to have you come on and share whatever it is related to the world of barbecue and grilling that you would like. All right, here's what's happening on the show, because a lot of stuff to get to in the open. Coming up in about 12 minutes from now, it's going to be this guy. This guy who is Sam the Cooking Guy. Huge in the world of video right now online. You can find him during the open at thesamlivecast.com. Quite frankly, one of the most favorite shows that I watch. It's 3 times a week. We'll talk to him about that, of course. And he'll take up 2 segments, so look for that. And then, of course, we have everybody's favorite monthly contributor to the show. You know him, I know him. Everybody knows him as AmazingRibs.com. Meathead Goldwyn will be joining us. And we will be talking to Meathead, believe it or not, about pastrami, where it starts, how we cook it, where it finishes. We'll talk about probably wine, too. We have a lot of pictures to show. There's going to be a lot of great stuff that is going to be happening here on the show tonight. So that's what you have for tonight. Sam the Cooking Guy, a.k.a. Sam Zion, and then Meathead Goldwyn from AmazingRibs.com. All right, Beards for Barbecue update. Guess what? Weeks in a row, got my 15 miles in. Feeling good, feeling pumped up. Got in a hard 3 miles today, 3.5 or so. Those first 2 miles were brutal. I mean, where is everybody else at? If I'm looking at the chat room, is anybody doing Beards for Barbecue? Are you guys taking part? You just eating a lot and continuing to be really fat and not healthy? Fat? I want to know. Where are you guys at? All right. I'm doing good, and I'm also taking my Jobies, which I've been taking for like 3 years now, and they give me the strength and energy that I need. Plus, they boost my immune system. When was the last time you saw me sick? Never. Love the Jobies. Okay, big announcement, in case you didn't see it on the Facebook. Drum roll a lot all of a sudden. Tonight, to the day and to the time? At least to the day. We mark the 4th year, beginning of the 4th year of the live show, the BBQ Central Radio Show. So let's take a stroll back, if you don't mind. We started this show in 2008. Now, the show existed previously in podcast-only form, and it was something that was pre-recorded. You know, I talked to top names in the industry, all that great stuff, but I had whittled it down to like a 20-minute type of a deal and put it up, produced. So I took a lot of ums and ahs and a lot of live spontaneity out of the show. But nobody else was really doing podcasts, and then podcasts started to get more and more available. People wanted to try their hand at them. People wanted to try their hand at a barbecue podcast. So had to continually set the bar high and high and high, or higher and higher and higher. And that's when I happened to find, where does anybody find anything these days? Craigslist. And there was an ad in the California Craigslist. There was a guy by the name of Sam Hassan who ran LA Talk, and at that point it was BBS Talk Radio, who ran or was just starting an online radio station. He wanted to do talk. It was going to be irreverent and entertaining. Nothing more irreverent and entertaining than a barbecue show, right? Of course not. And lo and behold, all of these 4 years later now, this show is still up and running. It's changed. If you're a subscriber to the newsletter that I sounded every Tuesday, I actually sent a link out to the very first show that we did February 7th, 2008. That's one you might want to go listen to. Listen to how the show sounded back then. Hear how the show sounds now. See how the transition of the show has become and all of the transitions that the show has gone through for the better for the most part. I know one time we had that segment called Tech Talk with Carlos. What can I tell you? Every segment isn't a winner. But for the vast majority of the show, things have progressed well. Popularity has gained more and more, especially on the download side. Hell, even on the live listener side, I mean, we're approaching 35, 40 connections. I have another 25 to 30 here on the audio side only. So things continue to build, however methodically. Let's say it in that way. The thing that I really appreciate the most is, and I'm not going to discriminate this time, it's just if you listen to the show at all, I just appreciate the fact that you like it, that you continue to tune into it, that you've subscribed to it on iTunes, or you've used a podcast directory to get to it. However you're getting there, and especially the folks that are doing it live each and every Tuesday night from 9 to 11 o'clock. However you're doing it, we have made it 4 years, well beyond any type of expectation that I even had initially for the show. And I know I keep threatening this, but there are hidden archives of the very, very first. I say There's produced podcasts that are on iTunes right now that you can get, and it's got the cartoon character Hillbilly with his hand on the cooker and a hand on the computer, and there's, a decent dozen, half of 2 dozen of those podcasts, which a lot of those were the inaugural roundtable shows that have risen to cataclysmic fame over time. But even before that, they're not posted. You can't find it anymore. There used to be a website called Putfile, which was like an upload host that they lived on for a while, and then that site got shut down. I had to take everything off of there because they were closing. Man, easily some of the worst podcasts you've ever heard in your life. I know I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. There is a distinct possibility that I may or may not ever play the very first BBQ Central podcast, which I believe was just called like the Barbecue for You forum show or something ridiculous. To hear how the show sounds right now today, with all the production value, with top men in the voiceover industry doing bumpers in for me, getting huge guests like my guest tonight, Meathead and Sam the Cooking Guy, to go all the way back, which has to be 6 years now, maybe even 7 years now, to hear that very first podcast that was done in like a teleconferencing type recording session. It was some of the most horrific podcasting that I've ever heard in my life. Maybe I'll make that available for sale for those people that want to hear suck-ass podcasting. That might be the best idea ever. But really, to hear how the show is now and how it's evolved from when I started that very first time to now, it's fascinating. It's very gratifying for me to do the show because people are giving me feedback that they like it and they like what we're talking about and all that great stuff. And I appreciate that to no end. But the fact that we are here, even just with the live show, that it's been able to sustain for that long is something that I really never anticipated. And I have to thank each and every one of the listeners, whether you're somebody that gets it on podcast only, whether you're somebody that lives and dies by the show and you watch it each and every Tuesday from 9 to 11 a.m., or whether you're a mix. It doesn't matter. Whether you're tuning in through smartphone apps like TuneIn Radio or Auxiliary Radio or anything like that, however you're getting the show, I appreciate it. And you are the sole reason that this show has been able to maintain and continually evolve, not only over the last 4 years, but over the last 2-3 years prior to that. So we're looking at a 6 or 7 year stretch where we've been talking about barbecue, if you can believe it or not, in some form or fashion. And it hasn't gotten old. It hasn't gone away. It hasn't turned into pod fade or anything like that. So I really appreciate it. Truly, truly, thank you very much. And here's hoping for another great year. All right, folks, let me give you a quick reminder before we get to Sam the Cooking Guy about Stephen DeFranco Jewelers, located in beautiful Willoughby, Ohio. That's right, local right here in Cleveland. We talked about it, and we announced it last week. I'll go ahead and once again announce it tonight. 50% off an Accutron watch. It's Boliva's Highline brand. If you are interested, by the way, that's Steve right there, Stephen DeFranco. If you're interested in getting a watch, let's face it, guys, there's not a lot of stuff that we can get that we're going to wear that isn't potentially going to make us seem effeminate, or that we're trying to get bling or draw attention to ourselves. There's not a lot of stuff that we can just do. It's just the way it is. We're guys, right? We're men, real men. But here's where we can dial it back a little bit and get something that is awesome. How about a awesome timepiece just like this Accutron watch that I got from Stephen DeFranco Jewelers. 50% off right now. Your $900 watch is going to be $450. Your $700 watch is going to be $350. You can do the math. You know how to take 50% away from something. And this is only until 1 week from now. The last day for this is going to be Valentine's Day. So you want to take advantage. Maybe you're in the doghouse. Maybe you bought crappy Christmas gifts or holiday gifts for your loved one. Boyfriend, girlfriend, same-sex lover, whatever the case may be. You need to step it up for this holiday. Valentine's Day coming up in a week. And you want to get a Highline watch. You can do it. You can reap all of the rewards that's going to bring you, except you don't have to reap all of the payout in order to get those things. You can save 50% off. Here's what you have to do. You have to call in to the 440 number that's listed on Steve's website. You go to the BBQ Central Radio Network's homepage. You click on the Steven DeFranco banner. You peruse the Accutron line inventory, first and foremost. You find the one you like. Then you call. You have to ask for Steve. Got to ask for this guy right here. Tell him you're a barbecue buddy. You heard about the deal on the show. And then he'll be happy to take 50% off. Also, if you're out of state, free shipping. Free batteries for life. Free engraving if it's going to be a gift. Free gift wrapping, obviously, if it's going to be a gift. A full care package for each and every watch sold, and you get 50% off. And you only have until next Tuesday. StevenDeFranco.com. Use the term barbecue buddy, but you have to ask for Steve once you find the watch that you like. We'll be back with first timer of the show, Sam the Cooking Guy. Right after this, you're listening to the BBQ Central Radio Show right here on the BBQ Central Radio Network.
BBQ Central Radio Network studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the BBQ Central Radio Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back to the show, 877-448-0433. Greg at the BBQCentralShow.com. If you want to jump in on the show tonight, more than happy to have you. All right, let me grab my sheet here. All right, as promised, joining me is most likely the most accomplished and award-winning person I've ever had on this show. He has like 12 Emmys to his credit. Also has the best live video show on the interwebs right now. It airs every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We race over to the hotline. First timer to the show. It's Sam Zion, Sam the Cooking Guy. Sam, how are you, buddy?
What's up, man? How you doing, Greg?
You know what? I'm sorry. I meant to say, Sam, how are you, fuckface?
You know what? So you're saying that, you watch the live cast, and I know you're saying that because I said a couple weeks ago, I'm trying to bring back the term fuckface.
Why not?
It was a favorite when I was a kid. I don't know how old you are, but when I was a kid, my teenager, we used the term. And I feel like it's a classic lost term now. It's got to come back.
Easily added to the end of any sentence, kind of like a sentence enhancer. You want to get something a little bit more oomph, like you're adding ingredients to the kitchen. Why not add it to the vocabulary? Drop a little fuckface right there. Everybody's heads are snapping around. It's great.
Hey, what are you doing, fuckface?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, pass me that cheeseburger, fuckface. It totally rolls, doesn't it? It comes right off the tongue.
It slides right off the tongue. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so Sam, I'm a big fan of the show, obviously, without saying.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
You're starting the new year healthy. How many pounds have you lost? I know it's kind of like a big thing around the show. And why do you think it's so hard for people to stick to diets and this whole eating healthy type thing?
The simple reason is because diets suck. You want to eat everything that's bad. You want the cheeseburgers. You want the French toast. You want the foie gras. Fat is flavor. There's just no two ways about it. What's your favorite cut of beef?
Mine is a cowboy Texas ribeye.
There you go. Ribeye, one of the fattiest cuts of beef, but also one of the most flavorful cuts of meat, right?
Absolutely.
I order ribeye because I want the flavor from it. If I didn't want that much flavor, I would go in New York. I'm not a fan of New York. I like a tenderloin. I think a tenderloin's a nice cut. But I generally go ribeye because it's got that marbling in it. It's got the fat. It melts. It's unctuous. It's the kind of taste that you want in your mouth when you're eating a piece of meat.
All right, so
and that's the problem. Fat is flavor, and we all want the shit to taste good.
So what do you think the best way to kind of get a diet? I think is bad, right? Because you're already pigeonholing yourself. You're already going to make yourself feel bad if you crash one day. How do you get on the right track just to be eating in a healthier fashion? What are some key instances?
Here's the thing. I've lost in about 2.5 or 3 weeks, 9 or 10 pounds, which is pretty good. And I'm trying, not to eat everything that I look at, which is difficult.
Right.
And I'm trying not to eat the super bad carbs, you know? Like, I don't need to have a grilled cheese every single day. I don't need to have 8 slices of big, thick French baguette bread with my pasta at night. In fact, I probably don't need to have that pasta every night. It's, you know, it's sort of like saving up. You know how when you were little, if you had dinner, there might be one thing that you really liked and you ate it last?
Yeah.
You got rid of the carrots and the mashed potatoes, but you left the ribs or whatever that one thing is you really like. Well, it's kind of like that for an adult, but it means that you're saving that food for maybe a couple of times a week, not every day. I was in Vegas at CES a month ago, and we ate like the fucking end of the world was coming. Every single morning, some kind of eggs Benedict. And there was hash browns, and there was sauce, and there was all the things that you probably shouldn't have. And then lunch, there was no regard for any, because we knew that we were marching towards the moment when it had to end. So we said, fuck it. Eat everything, we'll pay for it after the fact. But that's just not, you can't do stuff like that. So now for me in breakfast, instead of having the crazy stuff, I mean, I had a couple eggs this morning, but I had a lot of sauteed onions in there, a lot of sauteed peppers, and it was really, really delicious. I season it well, I flavor it well, but I don't need to have the toast with it, and I don't need a sauce with it, and I don't need, like a handful of pork carnitas thrown in the pan first, because that tastes great, but it's fatty.
Sam, the cooking guy, joining us here on the show. We're talking about eating right, maybe getting a little healthier. You know, obviously barbecue and grilling show here, so some things we were kind of game planning to talk about that you had mentioned would be some things that maybe you don't normally put on the grill. What do you like to see that's kind of out of the ordinary that you like to get on that burner?
All right, so there's a romaine salad that I like to do. I take a head of romaine. What are you drinking, by the way?
Water. I'm on the show.
Oh, but
I'm not like
there's
I'm
not like there's FCC rules.
Yeah, I know, but I feel if I were ever to lose control, that could totally ruin my any chances of being, popular and famous. I can't have that.
See, that's the disadvantage you have, is that you're running all your stuff.
Yeah, right.
The advantage I have is that I have a guy, when we do the show, who does it, so I can drink and sort of lose control, and the show doesn't go to hell.
Correct.
You need a guy. Get a guy.
I'm trying. No doubt.
Work on it.
All right, so what about some odd things outside the box?
So you take a head of romaine, you slice the little dirty brown end off, the little butt end.
Yep.
Then you slice it lengthwise down the middle, olive oil, and right on a really nice hot grill. And both sides. And the edges get a little brown, and the whole thing starts to wilt up a little bit. It stays generally pretty crunchy, but it just warms up these leaves in such a nice way. Then you bring it off, and then you put some crumbled cooked diced bacon on it, some chopped tomatoes, a little fresh grated Parmesan, and a little, balsamic vinaigrette, whatever you've got that your favorite go-to is, whether you make it yourself or you keep one in the fridge. A drizzle of that, fresh ground pepper, that's a really good salad. And there's really nothing that horrible about it. But you're changing what you would normally have as just a regular, everyday, Caesar salad or romaine chopped salad or whatever it is. You're throwing it on the grill. And I have this expression, I say, heat changes things. And of course it changes things. It makes them hot. But it does really great things flavor-wise to all kinds of food.
All right. What else would be, so that would, let's say that would be, and that's kind of I do that quite a bit myself. And that seems to get the crowd going. So if I'm having some people over, you bring out grilled salad, they're like, oh my God, why would you ever think of doing that? But then for main courses, obviously you got steak, you got burgers, spatchcock chickens.
Have that stuff. Okay, well we'll talk appetizer for a second. One of the things that I like to do is I like to buy a bag of frozen meatballs, like the ones that are like this size.
Yeah.
Right? About an inch across. And I thaw them and then get the grill screaming hot. And I take just a giant handful of these and I scatter them on the grill. I toss them maybe with a little sesame oil first, just to give them a little Asian kind of thing going on. And then they just cook on the grill. It's that simple. They get marks on them. You roll them around like, golf balls on a table. They get color. They get crispy edges. They get, the marks. And then you've got a handful of little wooden skewers. Bing, 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 bing. You skewer them, you put them on a plate, and you throw just some little dipping sauce with them. And whether that means you have a bottled teriyaki sauce in the fridge, I'm a big condiment fan. I love keeping those kind of things around. But so whether that means you've got a bottled teriyaki sauce in the fridge that you're going to roll out, or you buy some hoisin sauce, which is kind of like a Chinese barbecue sauce. If you could do that, it would be great. And if you didn't want to do the Asian thing, use regular barbecue sauce. Use one of my favorite little dipping sauces is mayonnaise and steak sauce combined. Really fucking good.
Yeah, never played around with that. Is that good for more meat because it's mayonnaise based, or can you get loose on that with some other proteins?
No, you totally do anything you want with that. Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite things are scallops like that. You can take the big sea scallops and throw them in a pan, sear them on both sides, and right at the last minute, you take a little bit of this mixture of mayo and some favorite steak sauce and throw that in the pan and let it coat them. It almost starts to caramelize a little bit, but it definitely browns up the edges. I mean, it makes them really, really nice. And then those things on some rice or on top of a salad, or just, skewer them and eat them like they're big, giant, little mini hockey pucks is a great thing to do.
Sam Zion joining us here on the show. He is known as Sam the Grill Guy. You can find him, by the way, a show that happens 3 times a week, the SamLivecast.com. Sam, one of the things that I saw you make recently that I was extremely attracted to right away was this eggplant Parmesan wrap. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
You know what? So we're talking grilling, and eggplant Parmesan is one of those things that's notoriously unhealthy for you. They take eggplant and they bread them and then they deep fry them. And then they take a very thick tomato-based sauce that's also unhealthy for you, and they slather that all over the eggplant that's been deep fried, and then they melt an ass load of cheese over the whole thing. So I like to do that, but I do a grill version of that I think would be perfect for your fans. So you take, slices of eggplant, the big globe eggplant, not the smally Asian ones, like a 1/2-inch slice of eggplant, olive oil, kosher salt, pepper, and on the grill. And it doesn't take, it's going to take a few minutes aside to start to get some good color, but really you need it to soften up because eggplant is like eating wood until you cook it the right way. So when you flip it over on its second side and it's starting to get really nice, then you take thick slices of tomato, olive oil, salt, pepper those, throw those on the grill right beside it. So what you're going to do is you're going to end up using this tomato that you've grilled on both sides that softens really beautifully as the sauce. Instead of some totally unhealthy sauce, you've got the grilled eggplant, you've got the tomato that's going to be the sauce on this thing, and you've got, some kind of bun thing, whatever you like on there. You want to throw a piece of cheese on top of the eggplant as you flip it on. It goes onto its second side. And then you just build this thing. So you've got bun that you olive oil, face down on the grill, get some good color, let it soften up. It gets really delicious. The eggplant with the melted cheese on top, and then the tomato that's been grilled, and now it's all sort of melty on top of that. And then a big-ass handful of basil. Chop the hell out of it. Slam that on top. Put the lid on. It's juicy. It's messy. It's gooey. But it's fucking awesome.
Sam, I think what is unique is you see a lot of these guys on Food Network, other chefs that are out kind of, I don't want to say they're giving a lot of bad information, but there are people in the mainstream, let's say, and then you got somebody like yourself who is out there cooking. You're making your own recipes. You got cookbooks out. You're doing cooking classes out there in Southern California. What do you think separates you and them? I mean, I know you don't like to call yourself a chef per se, or that's something like a title that needs to be earned, but where do you fall out on that?
Well, I think the biggest difference between me and them is that they make a lot more money than I do, Greg.
Yeah, right.
And, and I hate all of them for that. But, it's funny. I mean, so what I'm going to say is the advice that I give anybody that's thinking about whatever career it is they're going into. I didn't go into this to be famous. I went into this really just thinking that I could show people how to make decent food in a really simple sort of way. So I feel like I come at this from a much more sort of honest point of view. Be on the internet as I am off hanging out with friends. So I guess I care about how people eat. I want to see people not go to fast food every night of the week because it just gets expensive and it's really fucking bad for you. If I'm going to eat fast food, I'm going to make damn sure that it's something that I really want. And there's a couple burger places that I go to that I guess you could be considered fast food because you get it quick. We have an In-N-Out burger out here in Southern California that's now starting to populate around the rest of the country. So I like to go there. I guess maybe that's about it. I mean, I try not to. But you can eat at home better, faster, quicker, cheaper, way healthier than you can out.
Now,
and so, I mean, I guess to answer it, I mean, I'm not trying to make myself out to be a fucking saint or anything, because clearly I'm not. But I mean, I'm just trying. My goal was people eating better and enjoying it. That was pretty much it.
So there obviously had to be a precipitating event, or you either grew up around it. You were from Canada originally. You've made your way down to Southern California. In your house when you were growing up, were you a guy that was always around the kitchen? Did your mom or your dad bring you in and say, hey, Sam, we're going to be cooking. Why don't you take part in this? Or is this something that you attached to later in life?
No, it's funny. My story wasn't a food story. I was in 2001, I was a director of operations at a biotech company. And my goal was get myself out of there because I hated what I did. And one day, sitting at my desk, I had this random idea that I could start a travel show. It would be a regular guy showing you how to go to a place that was complicated, like a Tokyo, a Hong Kong, a place like that. Not spend everything that you had and not struggle. I'd gone to Tokyo with my brother-in-law. He went on business, and I went just as my sort of 40th birthday gift to myself. And I came home, and I told people, during the day, my brother-in-law, Tony, was at this convention, and he was working. And during the day, it was me walking the streets of Tokyo by myself with my video camera, shooting things. And a lot of my friends were like, dude, Tokyo, you can't read it. You can't understand what they're saying. You don't know what the food is. And for me, that was really the fun part. And I thought I could start a show where I would go to complicated places and show people that they could, in fact, do this. You can do this. That's, it was like that. I quit my biotech job. I threw together a little crew. We were a month away from going to Tokyo and Hong Kong to shoot demo footage for this thing. And 9/11 happened. Mm. And that day, I like to say, changed a lot of things for many more people than it changed for me. Mm-hmm. But it still changed my world because, nobody was buying a travel show from a guy in the days following 9/11, especially a guy who, A, didn't travel very much, and B, had no television experience. So I sat at home. I'd quit my real job to do this. I sat at home trying to figure out what I was going to do. And as I watched TV with no job to go to, I kept seeing restaurant chefs going into local TV stations and cooking. And their goal is fill seats in a restaurant. And the way they do that was by making great looking stuff, but that you never had a fucking hope of ever making yourself. Because you didn't know what they were talking. They did complicated things. They were braising. They were doing whatever it was. They wanted you to go, wow, that looks good. Let's go there and have it. They didn't want you to say, wow, that looks good and simple. I can make that. So as I watched that, knowing I had no job, I thought, what if I just did that? And I proposed the idea to my wife, and she said, but you don't really cook. And I go, so there, I'll be my own weakest link. If I can make it, anybody can make it. I felt like I could be entertaining. But apart from that, the cooking, I mean, hold on. Let me see if this is the book. This is I just happen to have my grilling cookbook here in front of me.
Right.
Just grill this and salad cooking that. But here's the quote, and here's the really important part. Cooking is like riding a bike. The more you do it, the better you get. And that's what I did. I got better at it because I started to do it. People will come up and say, oh, I love watching the show, but I can't cook. And I go, no, it's not that you can't cook. It's that you don't cook. Remember the first time you rode a bike, you fell off, you hurt your elbow, your knees, your ass, whatever. Now everybody can ride a bike. Same thing with cooking. First time you try to cook a piece of chicken, you probably fuck it up. Second time you're better. Third time, now you know. A little longer on the first side than the other one, flatten it, do this, blah, 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 whatever it is. You start to get it. That's what cooking is. And now that I've become that guy. I was a guy that couldn't cook. Now I can cook, but I still do things that are 5 or 6 ingredients and shit that you've got in the house. I'm not, I like foie gras. I like truffles. I don't keep them. I go out for that stuff. I say, that's the shit that you go out for. That's why God invented restaurants and really talented chefs.
Sam Zion joining us here on the show. Sam, the cooking guy. Sam, hang with me through the break here real quick, and we'll get right back to you. Folks, want to quickly remind you about the longest-running sponsor of the show, the BBQ Guru. That's right, makers of automatic pit temperature control devices. If you're a professional like me, maybe you're like Sam, you got some places you need to be during the day, but look, you want to put a pork butt on, you want to put a brisket on the cooker, you don't want to dick around playing with fire and controlling the pit temperatures. This is what the BBQ Guru is all about. It's a device controlled through microprocessors and fans. It's going to attach to your bullet-style smoker, your offset cooker, whatever the case may be. You're going to set it to the pit temperature that you want it, and then that's what it's going to do. It's going to keep it there. So you can go ahead and run to the store if you want to. You can go to work like me. I can throw a pork butt on at 6 in the morning. I can come back home. It's going to be succulently prepared because that pit temperature was controlled precisely by the good folks over at the BBQ Guru. Now, it's not just automatic pit temperature controls over there. No. They make their own style cooker, which is the Onyx oven. The Onyx oven has been winning prizes all along the barbecue competition circuit through KCBS, through FBA, through IBCA. Whatever sanctioning body it is, people have the Onyx oven, and they love it for a number of reasons. Of course, the first of which is it holds a lot of meat, so that's number one. Second of all, it's easily adaptable to any of the BBQ Guru Pitmaster pit temperature control devices that they make. This thing is insulated to the gills. You're going to get 25, 28, 30 hours off of a load of charcoal, which is absolutely unheard of in the industry. And with the makers of the BBQ Guru, research and development has went into this. It is absolutely a phenomenal product, and you're going to be happy that you, went over to the website, which is thebbqguru.com, and you checked out exactly what you need to outfit yourself with one of these. You have 4 different models to choose from. You have a Procom 4 wireless unit. You can roam up to 600 feet away from your cooker. You can control it in increments. You can see what the pit temperature control is right on the LED display. You have a Cyber Q2 unit. You have a Digi Q2. And then, of course, you have that thing that has changed the automatic pit temperature control nation, the Party Q, $130. It's completely enclosed. It runs on AA batteries. You can take it wherever you want. You put it on a bullet-style smoker or those big green egg styles. It's the easiest point of entry into automatic pit temperature control. You can control with 5-degree increments. It's got an LED readout as well. You're going to get 35, 40 hours before you need to change the batteries. That's at least a couple overnight cooks for pork butts and briskets. Go to the website, thebbqguru.com, or you can call them toll-free, 800-288-GURU. That's the good folks over at the BBQ Guru, longest-running sponsor of the show. And as we said, celebrating 4 years tonight, baby. Live show. We'll be back with Sam, the cooking guy, right after this. Stick around.
Get in the smoke. Call 877-448-0433 to get on the air. Now, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Big B, Moonshine Band, Suburban Noise Records. Let's go! I'm an outlaw. Give me 2 shots. We don't need a radio, bring a jukebox. For my outlaws, bring me 3 shots.
37 past the hour. Welcome back. Had my mic out of that. Sorry about that. And we rejoin Sam. Sam, thanks for hanging with me through the break there. You ever heard of the Barbecue Guru, Sam?
Okay, can I tell you here? I wrote it down because I hadn't. I'm in California, and I know that your people out there would probably not expect us to know anything about barbecue. But here's the interesting thing. Barbecue is one of the oldest, most simplest forms of cooking meat, correct?
Yes.
And yet these guys, as far as I can tell, have gone way fucking high tech with this shit. It's like a good old boy in the back one day said, you know, we can all do this shit better than everybody else. We're going to make us some of that fandangle fancy stuff and blow them all away. And that's what I think I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, I mean, it's a device. Look, we could break down minutia on barbecue like you wouldn't believe. There's a faction of people that would sit there and tell you if you use a barbecue guru, you are cheating. It's not barbecue. You're not sitting out there feeding sticks into the fire, so on and so forth.
No.
There's other factions that will sit here and say it's absolutely something that you need to have in the arsenal just in case you're busy or whatever the case may be. But yeah, you set the pit temperature control you want to keep it at. You just walk away. The thing's got a little fan. It continually reads. It's a lot smarter than I am, of course. But geez, I mean, for $130, I mean, how can you pass it up?
And so that $130, the party, what is it?
Party Q. Yep.
The Party Q. What does that go into?
Depending on what kind of a cooker you have, it's going to go into the bottom damper of, like, say, a Weber Smoky Mountain. And then you're going to stick a pit temperature probe in there, so it's going to constantly monitor where the pit temperature is at. If it goes below a certain threshold, that fan is going to kick on and stoke the coals. Pretty simple.
Shut the hell up.
Yeah, right?
That's crazy.
It's the good folks at the Barbecue Guru.
There you go. Love them. I'll go scope the site when we're all done here.
All right, Sam, let me ask you a couple questions. Time is flying by very fast, I apologize. But one thing that I wanted to get your take on, because you're a cooking guy, is how would you tell people, and I'm sure you get the question all the time, how do you make the best steak? What are the proper ways to do it?
Well, everybody knows this or should know this. I don't care what kind of steak you cook. You have to take it out of the refrigerator at least 30 minutes before, right?
Agreed.
And I see you smile a little bit because I talk to people all the time that say, you do? They're like appalled at the idea, as my wife is appalled. I will take meat out of the refrigerator and put it on the counter, and I'll go do something, and I'll come back. It'll be back in the fridge. My wife is concerned that I'm now setting bacteria alive on the meat because it's out of the fridge for more than 13 seconds.
Right.
I go, honey, no. It's going to be fine. I tell people all the time, you cannot possibly cook a steak properly outside and in if it's ice cold inside. We could all recognize a well-cooked steak, at least on the outside. But to cook it well inside, you got to give yourself a fighting chance. It has to be at least a little bit room temp, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you're going to be fine. And if you're cooking thin steaks, you shouldn't be cooking thin steaks.
Of course.
I say to people, I would rather eat steak once a month, but have it be a really good cut and a thick cut than a cheap-ass little thin, shitty thing once a week. Am I right?
I believe all steaks should be at a minimum cut at 1 1/4 inches, and 1 1/2 isn't too bad in my estimation.
No. Don't buy a thin steak. It's not a good way to cook it. You're gonna not be happy with it. So take it out early, and I think you need a lot of heat and a little bit of time, regardless of where you cook it. Whether you cook it in a cast iron pan, when I cook inside, I take a cast iron pan, I put it on the heat, turn up the heat, and I leave the pan with nothing in it for 10 minutes. And my steak, a little olive oil, kosher salt, pepper, both sides, that's it. Goes in the pan about 3 minutes one side, turn it over, give it a minute, and then I throw the whole pan in a 500-degree oven for another couple of minutes, and it's done. If I was going to do that on the grill, I would want the grill to be screaming hot. And if your steak is been out of the fridge for half an hour, you can do that, and you're going to get it where you want it inside. It's that simple. Lots of heat, little time. That's all you need.
Do you subscribe at all to the fact, and I've been known to fist fight people over this, that they will tell me, I hear it all the time, and I'm sure you do too, maybe you're a subscriber to this, and we can argue about this if you are. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that searing the steak seals in the juices?
No, fuck it. I think that's stupid.
Absolutely. I completely agree. It's one of the biggest myths ever on the face of the earth.
It's ridiculous, and one of the biggest hoodwinks that the grill people have pulled over America is by selling them a grill that we'll say is 30 inches, right? Or 24 inches. And almost half of it is a searing plate, superheated underneath, but you can't use it for regular cooking. So you're really buying a grill this big that you're only going to be able to use half of for most of what you do. It's a complete fucking waste of money. My closest friend up the street bought one of those, thought he was doing a good thing. And about a week after, he said, boy, did I fuck up. I go, what did you do, man? He goes, that searing section? He goes, it's a waste of money. Don't do it. I go, well, I'm not going to, but you should have asked. I would have told you.
What kind of a grill you got on the backyard?
I have a barbecues galore. Hold on. Wait, I got a picture of it here. Can you see that?
Yep.
It's a cross-wave technology. The heat is on the sides and it meets in the middle. The theory is when the meat or the protein drips down, it's not dripping onto flame and therefore won't flare up. I mean, it's a good grill. It gets hot. I don't know if you can really see. It's Porsche designed. The people that designed Porsches designed this. It's black, it's cool looking, and I like it. I use it. But I did something the other day that I put sauce. Super Bowl Sunday, we started with really good Bloody Marys here about 10:30, 11 o'clock.
You put horseradish in your Bloody Marys?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm not a Bloody Mary guy, but my dad makes them, and he puts raw horseradish in there. And I wish I could find the greatness of that. I'm more of a bourbon guy myself at 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night.
No. I can join you with that. I also put crispy bacon strips in too.
Yeah,
that's the thing to do. And I put celery. But you want like the really pretty stuff with the little leaves on top. And I put marinated asparagus or green beans in there too. I like a lot of stuff in there. I mean, it's almost breakfast. So much stuff. But that day, at some point, I put chicken sausages on the grill. And the live cast last night, Kelly said, what happened to those sausages you put on the grill? I went, oh, fuck. And I walked outside. I brought them in, and there they were. Completely black, no propane left in the tank, because I'm glad I don't have it hooked up to I would have drained all of San Diego's propane or natural gas if I'd had it hooked up.
We got to live and learn, right? That's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let me ask you a couple different questions here. Jesus Christ. I got 50 different things I still want to ask you, but perhaps you'd be gracious to come on again.
We can do this again. I'd love to have you on to talk some of the technical barbecue stuff that I know is in your, American flag covered head.
Yeah, there's a whole story to this. Don't worry about it. I'm not as creepy as I look. I swear to God. For the last couple weeks, and I'm sure there's people that watch your show and that heard me talk about this last week, but you were talking. Paula Deen had come out, said she had diabetes. You took kind of an issue with it for the fact that she had sandbagged it for so long. And then I believe it was at the end of last week, was it your son Zach that said you were softening?
Max.
Or Max, you were softening a little bit, that she was photographed eating cheeseburger, and you thought that kind of crossed the line. So I guess let me give you my take on the situation, because I disagreed with you up front initially, because here's what I thought. If you've ever seen Paula Deen cook, and you ever look through her cookbooks, she's fat, she's unhealthy, she cooks with everything heavy. And I'm no doctor, but I'll play one here on the BBQ Central Radio Show. If you eat like that all the time, you're going to get type 2 diabetes, because that's just what happens. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that she got this. But I guess I didn't have as much of a. It just was more of a no shit to me, but it didn't seem to be the same way with you.
No, my point was, and I agree with everything you've just said. You're going to eat like shit. You're going to end up like shit, and that's basically what's happened to her. My point was, she has such a platform available to her that rather than waiting 3 years to tell the public, hey, y'all, turns out you can't y'all eat like this because you're going to get diabetes. She should have come out the day after. She went on the Today Show a month ago and said, Al Roker, y'all know I got diabetes and I want to do the right thing. She should have gone on the Today Show 3 fucking years ago and said, hey, y'all, I got type 2 diabetes because you can't eat like this. Here's the thing. And if she had said that day, my TV show is for people that want this kind of food, so I'm going to keep going at that. But I want you to know this shit can happen. I'm going to start a separate conversation over here. Nobody would have had a problem with it. She would have been a hero, but it's not what she did. She waited till she signed a big fat deal with a pharmaceutical company and got her I don't want to make fun of her kids, but as I say, I think she has far too close a relationship with those children. I think there's still breastfeeding going on somewhere in that Dean family setup.
Really? Yeah. Whole milk, of course, right? Holy shit.
Yeah, now type 2 diabetes milk. Exactly.
Yeah, great. All right, so one of the other, now this is one thing that I do agree on, and I'm not a big fan of the Food Network, but one thing that I have railed on, especially to people that will listen to me in person, not necessarily here on the show, is that you have everyday Italian host Giada De Laurentiis. And everybody, as soon as I say the name, everybody goes right to the boobs and how hot she is. Personal appearances never show fodder, except right now, because her head is outrageously out of proportion to the rest of her body. Number one.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Yes, it is. I totally agree with you.
Number two, and I agree with you on this, what is going on with the over-enunciation of only the Italian words? You're in the industry, you know top men, Sam. What is going on?
Don't even get me started.
Pancetta, pecorino reggiano.
Right. Parmigiano, it's insane. It's insane. That stuff, I want to put a bullet in my head when I hear that kind of stuff. I don't get it. And you know what? I've seen her in person walking in a giant conference kind of place. I mean, we didn't talk. I don't know her. She doesn't know me. Her head is bigger than it should be.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying.
It's
not a joke. Here's the thing. Look, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably related to a duck. Everybody makes jokes about her big head. She's got a big head.
Yeah. It's one of the biggest heads out there on the earth today. Sam, before I let you go, promote what's happening for the rest of the week on the Sam Livecast. It's thesamlivecast.com.
Just come watch. You know, here's what it is. It's an hour show. Generally, we talk about food. We're irreverent. We're politically incorrect. We're uncut. We're unedited. We're much like you. And there's not many of us doing this. When we set out to do this, what we wanted to do was something different. We didn't want to fancy, dumb down a show and make it all perfect and nice and everything. Sometimes the mic doesn't work. Sometimes your mic doesn't work. I saw that tonight. You didn't turn it on, right?
Yeah.
Shit happens. But we're live, we're real, we're right here, we're honest. And if you want to talk about food, generally food, I mean, sometimes we digress a little bit. We talked about Super Bowl yesterday. We have fun with that. But we talk about food. We answer questions that people have on Facebook that follow the live cast right then. And we cook something live every day that you can watch and make. And this is not edited shit. This is not anybody in the back cutting up fucking onions for me and printing them and presenting. This is me doing it. So I do whatever it is in 10, 15, 20 minutes. You can do it the same way. It's meant for you to watch, enjoy the conversation, and see some food that you really dig. And if you go to facebook.com/The Cooking Guy and go to photos, look at the live cast food photos. We do some great shit on there.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. You got a great cast of characters out there. You got Lynn, you got Max, of course, my favorite, Steve. your wife Kelly, who's sitting in kind of the. You have one of the most fantastic kitchens I have ever seen. My wife was looking at it, and she's like, "Geez," she's like, "Is he at a studio or something?" I'm like, "Nah, I think that's in his fucking house." And then you would get up, you would walk around. And I'm like, "Oh my god, that is his house." It's really laid out very well. I love it.
Thank you. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And we'd love to have you on as the weather starts to get a little bit more. I'd love to hear your take on all kinds of equipment because people out here just don't know. I bought a pellet auto feed smoker.
Yeah, got one.
And I'm telling you, for somebody as dumb as me about shit like this, I'm really happy with it. Last Thanksgiving, I put a couple turkeys on at midnight, and I woke up to 2 smoked turkeys that were perfect. I was the MC for a Kansas City Barbecue Association sanctioned event here a couple years ago. And I saw a giant pellet auto feed smoker. And I said, "Is that fucking thing legal?" And they go, "Oh, yes." Completely legal.
Yeah.
And I got myself one about a year and a half ago, and I used the hell out of it. But I want to talk recipes with you because I know you know. Anybody that wears an American flag on his head has to know barbecue.
It's part and parcel with the territory. He is Sam Zion. Sam, the cooking guy. You can find him again at thesamlivecast.com. Sam, appreciate the time. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Thanks, Greg. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care. There he is. Sam. Love it. The Sam Livecast can be found at thesamlivecast.com. All right, weigh in on that. What'd you think? Little outside the box, I know. But geez. Oh, just lots of great stuff right there. What can I say? I'm a fan. I'm starstruck. I'm a fan. All right, gang, let me quickly remind you about Draper's Barbecue, a third-generation barbecue company located in western Kentucky in between Memphis and Kansas City. Shane Draper created a line of products that represents both cities as well as the flavor profiles from his home. Draper's Smokin' Sauce is a balanced blend of spices that marry savory, sweet, tangy, and some heat in a flavor profile that is just at home on the competition trail as it is in your backyard. Now, Draper's Barbecue also has a versatile rub simply known as AP Rub. The AP Rub, of course, short for all-purpose. It's a balance of savory, salty, sweet, and heat. Makes it a great flavor enhancer on any protein, and it can be used on popcorn, french fries, salads, chicken wings, onion rings, Chex Mix, baked potatoes, and in dredges for frying fish. Your imagination is its only limitation. Smokin' Sauce and AP Rub are great on their own. Of course, we all know this. We're big fans. But they were designed to be used together, folks. That's right, married well, loving each other. The dovetail of these two flavors make a completely different, complex profile that keep the judges thinking about your entry. You can find Draper's at drapersbbq.com/store, bbqaddicts.com, or bbqproshop.com. Also look for Draper's Barbecue on Facebook and on the Twitter. Shane is always available for questions and cooking advice. Now, do you have a local store you want Draper's Barbecue products in? Of course you do. We all do. Send Shane an email at info@drapersbbq.com. They are always adding stores in new markets. And your tip could lead you to earning some free swag, so hook that up. And be on the lookout for Draper's Barbecue's newest products called Mood Enhancer. This rub was built to make anything that has ever mooed taste better. From brisket to tri-tip, steaks to hamburgers, this rub has it covered. Mood Enhancer has very little sugar and low in salt and stands up to low and slow cooking as well as hot and fast. That's what she said. Stay tuned to Barbecue Central Radio for the exclusive release date. It's coming very soon. Draper's Barbecue, when they say 3 generations of pride and flavor in a bottle, they mean it. I got to reset. Give me 30 seconds. We'll be back to wrap up the first hour after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Big name interviews, advice on cooking brisket and ribs. And the only host willing to share his honest opinion on all things important in the world of barbecue. It's the BBQ Central Show.
Who would have thought this music thing was going to go this far? I never asked for this. I never asked for this fast living. The women, the whiskey, craziness. There's whiskey in my soul. Hey, burning snow.
I've been drifting down that open highway, finger in the air, 'cause I do things my way. The next town's where I call home.
Yeah.
I throw a shot glass down and a light of a smoke.
All right, we are back. Thanks again to Sam Zion, Sam the cooking guy. The SamLivecast.com. You need to check it out. It's really one of the best shows out there right now. And as Sam said, it's irreverent, it's cutting edge. But most importantly, they are cooking each and every night, which is something that I'm a little jealous of. I'm a little cramped back here. You can't see it, but we're adding more and more cameras, so you'll see it down the road, absolutely. We're going to be wrapping up here soon. Of course, we have Meathead coming off at the top of the hour. Everybody's waiting for Meathead. You can't wait for Meathead because we'll be talking about pastrami. We're going to be talking about processes and all of this other stuff. You've probably noticed, gang, that I don't have my headset on, but somehow I was able to hear. That's because, can you see it? I got one of those news earpieces. I'm like the Anchorman. Love it. One of the coolest things ever. All right, we are going to reload for Meathead. I got to get some water, do a little funny dance, and we will be back in roughly 1.5 minutes where we will bring up Meathead to talk about pastrami. Thanks again to Sam, the cooking guy, for coming on this past hour. 877-448-0433, Greg at the BBQCentralShow.com. You're listening to the BBQ Central Radio Show right here on the BBQ Central Radio Networks.
Understand my intention.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan. So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude!
Succulent fish! What?
He ate 54 wieners.
Now listen, Lavernius, shake a face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
You could use it to fight off creeping marauders looking to take your steaks off your grills.
I just like being anywhere with Junior, Senior, and Diva.
Sounds like a whole other type of movie.
Wow. Yeah, really. Keep it hot, keep it clean, keep it lubricated.
We have top men working on it right now. Ooh, top men.
Science, magic and technology, voodoo dolls and chants, electricity will make it weird. Science, fantasy and microchips.
We are back for the second hour. Hello. Forgot to put on the banner that time. Oh, I got to think of a new setup, I think. All right, I'm going to dive off just for 10 seconds here so you can sit back and enjoy this masterpiece.
This is Rennie Knopf with ChampionshipBBQ.TV, and you're listening to the BBQ Central Show.
Day. I need to find time to cook them right. My papa said, can't hurry ribs. No, you just have to wait. He said, ribs don't come easy. It's a game of time and time. You can't hurry ribs. No, you just have to wait. Just trust in the low and slow. No matter how long it takes. How many boiled slabs must I stand before I find the crunch to let me live again? Right now the only thing that keeps me hanging on is a memory of smoking it down to the bone. I remember Pop said, can't hurry. No, you just have to wait.
Meathead, how are you?
He said, ribs don't come easy. It's
Cleveland Cavalier hue.
I am 50-50, as it were, with Cleveland Cavalier sports of any kind. Let me go ahead and quickly roll right to the footage. There it is. We're talking pastrami tonight, and there it is. It's a patami. It's a pastrami. Is that a pastrami sandwich, Meathead?
Oh, it is indeed. Homemade pastrami, and it's not, well, it's elaborate, it's complicated, but you can do it at home. And I'm telling you.
Oh, my.
That's good. That is so good. Oh,
watch out. You got 5 pounds of pastrami in your beard, Meathead. What are you doing
God.
over there?
And this is not a big fat sandwich, as I tell you. I've already had one tonight.
So, how good is that? Rated on a scale of 1 to 10.
Well, pastrami is part of my heritage, and there's one that's better. But this is pretty darn good. I've been fighting the pastrami war for about a year now. Yeah, I've made a lot of bad pastrami.
I didn't know there was a war on pastrami.
Well, I've been trying. You know, it's to get it right is a battle. But I think I've climbed the mountain. And during it, I had a bit of a revelation. I want to play a little 20 questions with you. The answer of which may be a little more obvious than it should be, but I think I have discovered the oldest barbecue joint in America.
All right, hold on. Reveal.
Well, I'm going to play some 20 questions with you, and you've got to guess the name of it.
Who's the host of this goddamn show? Jeez, oh, all right, go ahead.
It's on the East Coast.
All right.
It was founded in 1888, and it's been in existence in pretty much the same location since then.
It's on the East Coast. All right, so that narrows it down somewhere between like Maine and Florida.
Yeah.
All right, so it's probably going to, am I hedging too far down when I say it's a North Carolina joint?
Nope. Further north.
Further
I'll give you
north.
another clue.
Right. Virginia.
It's a beloved landmark in a large city.
It is the Washington Memorial Barbecue Joint. Thank you.
They don't serve any pork because the owners are Jewish.
Because the owners are Jewish. Now,
I'm not talking Corky's in Memphis where the owners are Jewish because they serve plenty of pork. They're not kosher.
Is this something that I'm going to know?
Yeah, I hope so.
Oh.
Because I know you have a fondness for this city.
I have a fondness for the city. So well, I have a fondness for New York City.
Let's put it, their specialty is...
Wait. Is it Baltimore?
Nope.
No. New York City.
Their specialty, yep.
All right.
Specialty is brisket or plate, which is also navel, rubbed up with a good salt and pepper rub and a bunch of other herbs and spices, and smoked low and slow and long.
Is it that deli that everybody talks about where Bowser and Sha-Na-Na go to? The Carnegie Deli.
Katz's Delicatessen.
Katz's Delicatessen. Makes
pastrami, and pastrami is just another form of barbecue brisket. It is. I mean, now sometimes it's navel, which is a cut just behind the brisket. But pastrami is made, and you guys can do it at home too, by curing the brisket and then smoking it. And there's a half a dozen ways to do it, and I have tried all of them. And I have finally hit upon a method that is pretty darn close to Katz's. And I know that I'm going to get arguments when I call it a barbecue joint, but I mean, when you smoke brisket for 8-10 hours and come up with something as good as this stuff. There's the camera. There it is.
There it is, yeah. Very nice quality there.
Oh, it's gorgeous stuff. Gorgeous stuff. And that's the only brisket I've ever had that's better than my homemade. And I just this week published my method on the website on AmazingRibs.com. The way it works, and this is what makes it elaborate. Get yourself. I can't pick my teeth. I'm on TV.
Pick it.
Oh, God. I got to face the radio. I don't know if I like this idea, Greg.
People are demanding to see us. Believe it or not, there is high demand for people to be seen when they're doing radio nowadays. I believe they call it television.
Jeez.
Outrageous.
Okay. You start with a hunk of brisket. And what I do is I cut it into 3 parts. I cut the point off.
Wait, are you going to start talking about how to make pastrami?
Yeah.
Now, hold on a second. We have a whole 2 other segments to get into that. This is the segment where we talk about nothing that we're supposed to talk about.
Oh, okay.
Jesus Christ. All right, now, look, I just had a guy on for 2 segments in the first hour, Sam the cooking guy.
I listened.
He's pretty outrageous, very irreverent. I'm a big fan. I rarely get nervous when I'm interviewing somebody, but I was legitimately nervous, like a schoolgirl smitten with a hot guy. And I asked him this at the end. I said that he had a big issue with Paula Deen getting these diabetes and evidently sandbagging all of this information for 3 years. And to me, I don't care. I said if you're a fan of Paula Deen's, you realize that she uses every fat ingredient that you could possibly put in. She's Southern-style cooking. She's Southern home feel, however you want to call it. The words light, fat-free, and diet-friendly do not grace any of her recipes. So when she makes the announcement that she's type 2 diabetic, to me it's like, yeah, no shit, look how you're eating and look what you're cooking and look what you promote. He had a big issue with it, saying that she should have come right out on top of it and say, I have type 2 diabetes and this is blah, blah, blah. How do you feel? Did you have a reaction either way?
Yeah, I did. I'm type 2. And have been for a while. I think it's a byproduct or a hazard of my chosen career.
Yeah, and, right.
I'm overweight. I'm not obese yet, but I'm working on it. I have a well-marbled waistline, and I'm proud of it.
Will you be selling yourself out to KCBS competitions as the next Wagyu?
Yeah, right. Okay, take a cross-section of this.
Yeah, right.
But I think his point's well taken, that it didn't come out until after she had the big contract. And I think that it would have been a really great opportunity for her to say, I've really flogged this traditional old Southern-style cooking, which all of us love. I mean, I write about it a lot, too. And I'm going to try to find ways to lighten it up and make it healthier and see if we can do something fun with that. And it might have been an opportunity. I think this whole subject of healthiness, though, is something that I'm uneasy talking about. Sam clearly knows food, but I heard him sitting there saying that he makes this eggplant parmesan with fresh tomato slice. That's a great idea. I do it similarly because he doesn't want to use unhealthy tomato sauce. What is unhealthy about tomato sauce? Unless you have the chops to talk about what's healthy or not, I prefer you just stay out of that game. And, we have new laws about people talking about their health. The hospitals can't tell the public how your health is. It's none of our business how Paul is doing. But I think anybody who looked at her and watched her cook knew that it wasn't the ideal way to cook and eat. I mean, pastrami, it's not an everyday food. I'm not going to eat it every day. It's a treat. Steak is not an everyday food. It's a treat. Ribs are not an everyday food. It's a treat. If you eat that stuff every day, yeah, you probably will pay a price on down the line. I think Paula would have been better served had she come out earlier. But she certainly took a lot of heat for it, and possibly deserving.
I don't know. I don't care. And we'll go ahead and leave it to that. While I talk quickly about Fred's Music and Barbecue, Meathead, you go ahead and have some. Weren't you going to have Viognier? Get some Viognier. Crying out loud. All right, I'm going to talk about Fred's Music and Barbecue here just for a second. Second longest running sponsor of the show. That's number one. Secondly, a trusted, tried and true online retailer. Look, gang, times are tough. We don't have an exorbitant amount of discretionary income like some other people do. So we want to make sure that the money that we have is going to be able to be spent and cared for properly. So first of all, you need to go to tastylicksbbq.com and peruse this whole inventory. Fred has everything on his website inventoried in his station in Shillington, Pennsylvania. So if you see a cooker, if you see cookbooks, if you see wood chunks, if you see wood chips, whatever the case may be, he has them readily available. They're going to ship to you promptly, and they're going to be for a fair price. Now, what else is more important than while we're taking care of your money and you're dealing with somebody that's reputable? Maybe you order a cooker and you think you're Mr. Big Shot, you know all about it, you're going to be able to put it together, it's not going to be any problem. Well, once you get it, you realize, well, I'm not such a smart guy as I thought, and now I'm going to need support. Key number 2, guess what? There's support at Fred's Music and Barbecue, whether it be from Fred himself or one of the many knowledgeable salespeople that is in Shillington, Pennsylvania, in the brick-and-mortar store. Just lob him a quick phone call. Say, Fred, Toby, whoever it is, I need some help with this big green egg and replacing the felt filter that I burn off all the time on this thing. Or I can't figure out how to plug in my Bradley smoker. Or I can't put pellets into my Traeger cooker, whatever the case may be. And it could be a lot more intricate than that, of course. These guys are going to be able to help you out, provide you support after the fact, which is key. So here's what we've learned. You have TastyLicksBBQ.com is the website. You have inventoried stuff ready to ship to you once you find it on the website. And you have support after the fact. And that's why you want to visit Fred's Music and Barbecue. Now, there is a 2-day competition barbecue cooking school taking place next month. Currently all filled up. There is standby seating still being taken. If enough people get on board, there actually might turn around and do a back-to-back cooking class, which is going to be hosted by Todd Johns from Pork Pullin' Plowboys. One of the most sought after and winningest team captains in the barbecue competition circuit. People that have taken his class have won things like the American Royal, have won things like the Jack Daniels. And they're going to be holding this event in Shillington, Pennsylvania. Again, it's going to be March 10th and 11th. Go to TastyLicksBBQ.com to get the latest information on if they've extended the class out. I tried to reach Fred before air tonight, and I didn't hear back from him. So lob him a phone call or shoot him an email. See exactly what's going on with that class. If you can't take a Dave Bosca class, if you can't take a Rod Gray class, Todd Johns is one of the top pitmasters out there, and the class is that good as well. TastyLicksBBQ.com. It's pastrami. Pastrami talk with Meathead coming up in 10 seconds.
Broadcasting live from the BBQ Central Radio Network studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the BBQ Central Radio Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. 14 past the hour, and we are going to be talking pastrami with Meathead. He joins me. You've heard him, AmazingRibs.com, the most trafficked, heavily excited website having to do with barbecue and grilling. How's that sandwich, Meathead? Wow, looks delicious. Instant feedback from the chat room. Let's hear it, folks. I mean, look at you. I'm suffering with a glass of well-filtered Brita water, and you have pastrami sandwich times 2. It's it looks absolutely fantastic. All right, so let's...
And I got to tell you...
Yeah, go ahead.
It's right up there with... I mean, it's a different animal than barbecue brisket.
Well, not really.
Right up there with barbecue. Well, it's similar in process. There's a big difference, but it's really as pleasurable as any good barbecue brisket I've ever had.
Is it one of those things where you put it in your mouth and you're like, oh my Lord? Is it? It's a Harry Met Sally moment?
Well, you know, Harry Met Sally, that famous fake orgasm scene took place over real pastrami at Katz's Deli. In fact, if anybody out there has never been there, it's a landmark in New York. You got to go on Houston Street. It's not Houston, it's Houston Street. And the Lower East Side, which was the Jewish shtetl, the Jewish neighborhood, the ghetto, and they have the table where that scene was filmed. You remember where the Billy Crystal character was telling, what's her name?
Meg Ryan.
Meg Ryan.
Hot.
About how
totally hot.
She says, "You mean they never fake it?" He says, "Of course not, I can tell." And then she proceeds to demonstrate a fake orgasm for him. And in the background, there's this woman, everybody in the restaurant's watching this scene. And finally, when the waiter comes by, she says, "I'll take what she's having."
That's right.
Of course, she was having, if you watch the film, you can get it on YouTube. And I've actually got it on my pastrami page. She's eating turkey. He's eating pastrami. Just very classic, but their pastrami is just absolutely the best I've ever had. It is so tender and juicy. Barbecue people rarely achieve that level of flavor and tenderness and juiciness. The big difference is the meat is cured for a long time. Now, some places will take the brisket. Is it okay to start talking about?
Yes, let's start now. Thank you.
Some places will dry cure it. They'll put a spice rub and a bunch of salt on the exterior, and they usually use something called Prague powder. It's an old-fashioned salt with nitrates in it, which is a preservative. It's the stuff that gives corned beef its pink color and gives hot dogs its pink color. There's been a lot of really good research lately that has disproven the concern that a lot of people have about nitrates. There was one research paper back in the 70s that implicated nitrates as a carcinogen, and then there's really been nothing, to my knowledge. Now, I may be wrong, but I've tried to dig into this. It's not been upheld, and in fact, I mean, there's more nitrates in a plate of spinach than there is in a pastrami sandwich or a hot dog or something. It shows up in nature. It's in our water. Its risk seems to be really, really low. So I think that it's like, barbecue causes cancer. I think that's overblown issue. So not to worry about it. But in any case, they rub this stuff up and they cure it. It is either dry cure. I finally settled upon a wet cure, which is a liquid brine. Okay, let me back up and get organized here. I take a whole packer brisket and I lop off the point. So let's say we got a small one,
Hey, let me interrupt here for a second, Mita. Are there pictures we need to be showing at the same time here?
Have you got pictures? Okay, I didn't send you any of the butchering pictures.
All right.
But if you want to just flash up some of the corned beef pictures, because step one is you make corned beef.
All right.
And that's great because you can eat corned beef right out of the container. You got the pickling, the one of the corned beef floating in the pickling sauce? There it is.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Look at this. Okay, so this is a brine that I make. And again, all this is on the recipes and the procedure. If anybody reads my website, my recipes are 6 times longer than anybody's because I really try to make sure all the little steps are included. This is a brine that is some brown sugar, a lot of salt, a little of this Prague powder, and very little, like 1 teaspoon or something, and pickling spices. And I even have a recipe for making your own pickling spices, which are much fresher and better than you buy in the store. And this stuff sits in there for a minimum of 5 days. It depends on how thick the meat is. I usually give it a week. And in fact, this last batch, I forgot about it for about 2 weeks. It really doesn't matter. Once it's saturated with the brine, it is pretty much preserved. After it's been brined, it's pickled. They call it corned beef. Corning is the process of preserving beef. It was really typical in Lower Manhattan and Eastern Europe. And in fact, everybody talks about corned beef and cabbage for St. Patrick's Day. But in Ireland, there wasn't any corned beef. There was mostly corned pork. The corned beef came into the vocabulary when the Irish got to Lower Manhattan and they were stuck in the ghetto next to the Jews who didn't eat pork. So they made corned beef, and that's when it took off. You won't find corned beef and cabbage in Ireland. You'll find corned pork. But in any case, so you make corned beef by letting this stuff sit in the brine, the flavored brine, for about a week. And then you take it out and you soak it in water for a while to pull out some of the excess salt because it's now been cured, it's been preserved, but it's way too salty. And you soak it and you change the water, and then you're ready to cook it and eat it. And that's a pork. Oh, that's Big Mista's pork.
Sorry,
okay.
Wrong picture. Sorry about that. Shout out.
Actually, there may be a picture of the finished corned beef in there somewhere. We got to work on this coordination of slideshows. I'll have to number them for you
There you
next
go.
time. But and when you go to the store and you buy corned beef, you'll often find it in cryovac. And if you find it in cryovac, it's got liquid in it, and that's the brine. And if you eat it straight out of that pack, it's not cooked, and it's potentially risky. You've got to cook it. And what most people do is they throw it in a pot and simmer it low and slow. And you'll pull a lot of the salt out. It's good to change the water, and you can throw the cabbage. And, if you do it right, if you sequence the potatoes and the carrots and the cabbage, you won't get a mushy mess. And I talk about how to do that on the site. And you get really good corned beef. Well, that's step one. Once you're done with corned beef, now you can take it and throw it on your smoker. So when I get the brisket, I cut it into three parts. The point comes off, and then I take the flat and I cut it in half. So I have three roughly equal size slabs of meat, and I corn them. I soak them to remove the excess salt. Sometimes I just boil it up and have a corned beef dinner or corned beef sandwiches. And sometimes I then move it to the smoker and smoke it. And Fred, if you're out there, my best corned beef ever is what I'm eating here today. And it was my first cook with your Mojo bricks. I used the cherry, and it was a home run. The stuff burned.
Mojo bricks.
Forever. I did it on a Weber kettle, and I used the Party Q and Mojo bricks, two of your advertisers.
Watch out.
It was just a sheer home run. The cherry, which Fred said he thought was one of his better ones, really worked nicely, and it burned far longer than I thought it was going to burn. It really did a nice job. I was very, very pleased. I'm going to use that stuff some more. I can't wait to try it again. But I don't know that the flavor of wood matters a whole lot. I don't know, the folks at Katz's and other pastrami makers won't tell you much about the process. In fact, Chef Cohen, I interviewed him at length, and I thought I made him my buddy, and I was getting all the inside information. And then I asked him a question I asked him about a half hour ago, and he gave me a completely different answer. So, they keep their secrets close to their vests, like any other barbecue cook. But I know that my recipe comes really, really close. There's one difference. They get a really hard black crust. And if any of you brisket people out there, there's our corned beef. I don't know if you're watching on TV, folks, but that's your New England boiled dinner, or corned beef and cabbage, some Yukon Gold potatoes, and some carrots, and a wedge of cabbage.
All right, I'm going to give you a drum roll on this one because I'm very excited to show this picture. One of my favorite things ever. Corned beef hash. Holy jeez. How good. I want to put my face in that.
This is leftover corned beef.
Oh.
In a cast iron frying pan on my grill. Those are, you guys out there probably recognize grill grates.
Yep.
A nice new set. And you mix in some potatoes and some onions and corned beef. And I got the recipes on the site. And then at the last minute, you put a couple of cracked eggs on there. And that is just a gorgeous breakfast. There's enough there for three, but I think two of us ate it.
There you go.
Which could be why I've got Paula Deen disease.
Paula Deen. Oh, boy.
That's right. From now on, it's Paula Deen disease.
We have renamed it Paula Deen's disease. Type Paula.
I'm type Paula.
That's right.
It's a hazard, man. I don't make hamburgers with donut buns, but
who does?
When you're making corned beef and you're tasting it all the time, and while this process was going on, I had to taste it while I was smoking to see if I was over smoking. You guys know how it is. And there aren't any skinny barbecue cooks out there, except Rempy. I don't know how you do it.
I'm just a backyard guy. I don't count.
Well. But in any case, and you just smoke it up like you would a regular brisket. I tried one slab wrapped in foil, and a lot of liquid came out. I wasn't happy with the end result. The slab unwrapped, let it go through the stall, was my favorite slab, and it worked out great. And as I say, I've done it like 10 times now, and you guys know how it is to fight a recipe until you get it beaten to death. And I really think I've knocked it out of the park this time. And if you like pastrami, and I know there's some recipes out there. I think I've really done a better job than most, modestly spoken. And I think I really have nailed it to the wall. I've eaten a lot of pastrami in my time, and it's a process. The last step is you're not done yet. After you've smoked it, you can taste it, but it's fairly tough. You now need to throw it in the fridge and let it sit there for a day. Now, I don't know if this affects the flavor or not, but this is what they do at Katz's. They smoke it off premises, throw it in a walk-in cooler, and then ship it over to the restaurant chilled, and then they pull it out of the cooler when they need it and steam it to heat it. And they say they steam it for 3 hours. I steamed it for 3 hours, and I didn't see a big difference between 1 hour, 2 hour, and 3 hours. So just about an hour is steaming. And it just comes out so juicy. Have you got some of those corned beef pictures I sent you?
Yeah, do you have one in particular that you would like, or just throw them all up there?
Run them by at leisure. There's several pictures up there that I think will show folks that I haven't gotten up on the website yet. Okay, on the left is your point, and on your right is the flat. And I think you can see the grain of the fat. And that's, for brisket, for people who haven't cooked much brisket, that really, I think, shows you the unevenness of grain and the amount of fat, but you can see how moist they are. Point on the left, the fattier cut, and flat on the right, the more even grain cut. And if you ever get to Katz's, don't just go grab a table. Walk up to the counter and watch them carve it. And when he asks you fatty or lean, say fatty.
Of course.
This is the point being sliced, and you can just see how juicy it is. Remember, this has been steamed. I don't have quite the hard crust that they get at Katz's, but the flavor is pretty darn close. So I think I've got my rub blend very close to theirs. I think they may be using some burnt sugar. Anybody out there who's a brisket cook who knows how to get a good hard crust, I'd love to hear from you. That's the flat, and that's fresh out of the steamer. You can just see how juicy it is, and it's so tender. It's just flaky, fall apart tender. And that was dinner last night. Pickled tomatoes. I've got the recipe for them on my website too, because that's a standard at the kosher delis in Manhattan. And that's a sandwich getting ready to be covered over and made. And all they do, no mayo. You can, if you want, have a little kraut on it. Now, your traditional deli pastrami sandwich is just rye bread, mustard on both slices, and brisket packed up. Now, this is a strong. That's a Chicago pastrami sandwich, since that's where I am. At Katz's, it's 3 times that thick. You need to unhinge your jaw to eat it. But it's pretty impressive stuff over there. And I'm telling you, you can do it. If you know how to make brisket, or if you've got control of your environment, you can do this. It's a pain because it's so many steps. Pickling the meat, leaving it in there for a week, draining it, soaking it water overnight, then chilling it, then smoking it, then chilling it, then steaming it. But it's worth the effort, believe me. Just worth the effort.
For the cure, I see there's companies, my dad would make beef jerky on his cook shack, because the unit itself really lends itself to making it a great beef jerky machine. But there's a cure that you have to get for the eye of round. Typically, it's bought in through High Mountain. Is there a company that you would recommend getting a pastrami or a corned beef cure, or is it something that you're just going to use at home? What do you think?
All the ingredients are easily found, with the exception of the pink salt or the Prague powder, or whatever they call it. There's several different names for it. It's not hard to find in grocery stores, big grocery stores. They usually have it in the canning or preserving department. But there's a ton of websites out there that specialize in cured meats, sausages. You can even buy it on Amazon. I've seen it on Amazon. I got mine from a restaurant, buddy. I know not far from my house, a restaurant called V. They do a lot of cured meats and stuff, and I just went down there and asked the chef, hey, can I have a cup of your prog powder? And he said, sure. So if you know a restaurateur who does that sort of thing, go for it. But it's not hard to find. It's all the rest of the ingredients, coriander, black pepper, brown sugar, pickling spices, and you can make your own. They're all easy to make, easy to come by, easy to handle, piece of cake.
Now, for people that might not, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but evidently there's people out there that don't like rye bread. Is there an alternative form of bread platform that they would be able to use that would be comparable, or that you would, if you had no rye bread, is there something that you would use in place of?
Can you see my face?
I'm guessing not.
No. Yeah, pumpernickel will work in a pinch. And if you want to use a nice loaf of, use a rustic bread, an Italian bread or something like that. No, I wouldn't use white bread. But, it really is just a carrier. It's just something to keep the mustard off your fingers. It's the meat, and the meat is so intense.
Meathead Goldwyn joining us here on the show. We're talking about pastrami. You can, of course, visit his website, AmazingRibs.com, and it's still one of the most heavily trafficked website when it comes to barbecue and grilling. All right, Meathead, let me put you on standby here just for one more second while I do another read, and then we'll get back to the brisket talk. I'm sorry, the pastrami talk, not the brisket talk. Friends, Dave Bosca has been on the competition circuit for some years now. He just finished third in the KCBS Team of the Year in 2010-11. I don't even know what time it is. In 2011, he finished third overall for KCBS Team of the Year, scored very well in all categories. He's got this amazing product out there that many teams on the competition trail are using right now, his injections for both pork and brisket. He's got award-winning rubs, honey barbecue rub, which scored very high marks with ultimate reviewer Scott Roberts from scottrobertsweb.com. He's got a very good base barbecue rub, or a premium barbecue rub that goes good on anything. He's got a great salt. It's not salt, but it's a steak and brisket rub. It's one of my all-time favorites that I've actually pretty much used it all, so I'm going to have to go in for reorder. And then, of course, he's got this sauce. I think 2 or 3 shows ago when Meathead was on, I was actually literally doing shots of barbecue sauce during our segment. It was that good. I couldn't put it down. These are all products that you can use on the competition trail to help boost your scores, potentially get you calls across the stage, and eventually walk away with reserve grand or grand championship honors, helping you recoup some of that cost. But it's not just for that. Forget about it. You're somebody like me, somebody who doesn't compete, somebody that wants to step their game up in the backyard. I can still go to butcherbbq.com and get injections for my pork and get injections for my briskets. Get all of his sauces and rubs that do well, have been proven on the competition circuit, and now I can step my backyard game up 2, 3, 5 notches. Women in the neighborhood are going to want to sleep with me. Men are going to want to beat me up because my meat is so succulent and wonderful tasting. And it's all thanks to Dave Bosca from Butcher Barbecue. Now, one of the other things that he has worked out, what's the biggest bitch that you hear about all the time from people on the internet? Man, I would get that, but shipping is killer. I'm going to have to hold off on that. I'm going to have to get a free shipping coupon. Whatever the case may be, Dave has somehow strong-armed the United States Postal Service into giving some of the most spectacular rates you have ever seen. For instance, priority shipping for all domestic packages. Now all costs will be set at a flat rate. Orders $55 or less. Your shipping will be, what? What is that? $9, $10? No, $7. That's right. Anything over and above that will be $9. It's just one more way you can trust your butcher. And again, all you have to do, visit them, butcherbbq.com. When you buy it all, don't forget to put that extra 2 pounds order of grill, the product that's revolutionizing the market. Put it in your bag, put it in your cart, get it all there, butcherbbq.com. We're going to be wrapping it up here with Meathead. Stick around. Be right back.
Big name interviews, advice on cooking brisket and ribs, and the only host willing to share his honest opinion on all things important in the world of barbecue. It's the BBQ Central Show.
All right, we are back talking with Meathead Goldwyn. Meathead, you're actually taking questions in the chat room while we're having it. We always appreciate that. Interacting with multiple sources on many different levels, a man of many traits, and we certainly appreciate you with interact. What do you think of? I mean, let's back all the way up here for a second. You've been doing this show now for well over a year. You've listened to me pretend like I know what I'm talking about for just as long. You've seen the show evolve to certain degrees. We're now on multiple cameras with different shots. We have chat rooms going on. What do you think the overall evolution, just as the show of the show since you've been on? What do you like? What do you think could be improved? Be honest.
This is year 4, isn't it? Didn't I hear you say today is your 4th anniversary?
This is the beginning of the 4th year of the live show, correct?
That's really outstanding. That's really remarkable. I really got to hand it to you. This is such an entrepreneurial, creative endeavor. You've caught me off guard with the question. I really do like the forum. I'm a little fearful that I'm running out of stuff to talk about for an hour. So offline and between you and me, I think you need to cut me back to a half hour. But I really do like the guests. It's funny. There was a lot of talk in the chat room earlier about your previous guest who really knew food. But I'm an old fart, and all the F-bombs kind of felt weird. And I know it's not over the public air, so we don't have to worry about Nipplegate and other things. And occasionally an F-bomb or I don't know, a lot of the guys like myself just felt a little weird about it. And I don't know, maybe if you get that talented chef back, he could...
He's not a chef, though. I think he would say that he's not a chef. He's just a cook.
Neither am I, and but he certainly is talented. That was an oddity, though. But that was real an oddity. Greg, I think you really do a lot of great things. I'd have to think hard about what I would do differently. I'd like to see you make some money at it. I'd like to see you get some bigger advertising.
Oh, you and me both, brother. I'd happily give you 1-2% of everything I take home with words like that.
But this video thing really got me thinking. I mean, I found out about it yesterday, and what's the first thing I do? I started shipping you photographs. I'm trying really hard not to pick my nose. I'm thinking, gosh, I like the idea that the last guy was sitting in his kitchen, and I'm thinking, hey, I wonder if there's a way I could get a camera that I could move around and I could take it over into the refrigerator or out onto the deck. So who knows what the future holds. And there's a lot of creativity in you, and I'm happy to be part of it. I'm flattered that you keep inviting me back.
No, I mean, it's always great content. We always have good back and forth. I mean, if you're worried about filling the whole hour, I always thought that I could never get everything in, or we were always rushing. So
yeah, right.
Probably what's best to do.
I can keep that up.
We're airing all of our dirty. Go ahead.
On the message board, on the chat line, people were asking about using other cuts. The classic cuts are brisket. Well, actually, the classic cuts are navel, which is plate or behind or slightly above. You usually want a fattier cut, but I've played with it enough now to learn that you can get darn tender. I mean, it's the steaming process. Oh, look, there's a double pan. The steaming process really tenderizes. I mean, just think if you did your regular barbecue brisket, and instead of slicing it and putting it in the tray and serving it to the judges, you steamed it for an hour. Try it. I mean, it really is good. That's what they do at the pastrami. So it gets really tender and juicy that way. So I think you could get away with using round. Somebody asked about round. I think you could use flank steak, other cuts. I think just about any. The real thing is the cure and the spices. So I think just about any cut's going to work. And the final step of steaming is really what makes it tender.
How do you go about steaming? How do you go about steaming?
Oh, yeah. This was a pain.
Yeah,
I
right.
had these 3 2-pound chunks this last batch. Well, I've even done whole packers this way. How do you steam it? I got a regular vegetable steamer, which will barely handle 2 pounds of beef. I ended up taking a turkey roaster, an old aluminum one. This was a mistake. This is a fun topic. We can touch on this. We got a little time to kill.
Yep.
I took an old aluminum turkey roaster and put some rolled up balls of aluminum foil in the bottom and some mesh, which is like a grill topper, on top of that. And then I filled the bottom with water and I put the meat on top. I really MacGyvered this thing together. And it worked great. I got 2 hours of steam and I never had to replenish the water. You could do it with a roasting pan and a wire rack and pour water in the bottom and put foil over the top. But you've got to keep replenishing the water. But you got to watch out for the aluminum. There's so much salt in this that the aluminum pan I used turned dark gray when I was done. And it reminded me, I had some people who listen know that I have this wonderful relationship with a physicist, Dr. Greg Blonder, who used to be the head of research at Bell Labs, and he's a barbecue and a foodie. We were talking about, I got a letter from a reader about how he had put his ribs with his rub in a stainless steel pan, covered it with foil, put it in the fridge overnight so that the rub can penetrate, which a lot of barbecue cooks like to do, and that when he went in the next morning, the foil had holes in it. I don't know if any of your listeners have had that experience. I'd be curious to see. Raise your hand out there, guys, if you've had this happen to you. So I asked him about this, and we did some research on it, and, he knew right away what it was, but I had to do some digging. It's called the lasagna cell. You set up a cell, a battery, where the anode and the cathode are the steel pan and the aluminum foil. They're different alloys, they're different metals, and the electrolyte is the liquid in the pan that carries the charge, and if it's got enough salt and enough acid, it'll turn it into a battery, and the battery will melt the aluminum. And if you dig around on message boards, you'll find lasagna cooks who run into this problem because of the tomato sauce and all the salt and acid in tomato sauce. And I'm curious, has anybody in the chat room encountered that? No, just bursting pellets. Okay. But it's not uncommon. So as I'm steaming my briskets or my pastrami's, I etched this old turkey roaster out of aluminum. I think I'm going to purge my kitchen of all aluminum cooking devices. I'll still use them on the grill for drip pans and such, but you really got to watch the electrical conductivity. And this is different from the common issue that people always warn you about of just salt etching aluminum or changing the flavor of anything that's cooked in aluminum. The electrical charge business can actually melt aluminum foil and do some other damages. I see somebody said they've had it with deviled eggs, of all things. Big Mista's had it happen with lasagna and meat. So, okay, you guys have bumped into this thing. I'm writing about it. Blonder's sent me a bunch of technical information, and I'll be writing an article about the lasagna cell and the danger of it. And it could also crop up, I think, under proper circumstances, if you foil some meat and put it on a cast iron grate. But I'm not quite sure. I think it takes a lot longer to create the charge. I need to know more. I should shut my mouth until I learn more from Dr. Blonder. But it's really interesting stuff.
When is there going to be some type of a release blog on this? Do you have a time frame on it?
No. One of the things I love about my job is I get down to my desk in the morning and I immediately start answering all the emails. And people post questions, and I answer those. And if somebody asks a question that I really think needs attention or elaboration, or I need to revise an article because it's ambiguous or unclear, I started the article on the lasagna cell. It's almost done. When I'll get to it, I'm not that disciplined. I don't have a schedule.
All right. What are some of the other projects that you have working? Oh, wait. Let me roll back a little bit. When you're cooking the pastrami after it comes out and you've soaked it in water, then we're smoking it. Do you keep it at true barbecue temperature? You're looking for 225. You're looking at 180. What was the temperature you were looking at?
If it's steaming, it's likely to get up pretty close to 200, 212. In that range. So Katz's claims they steam it for 3 hours. But I've watched them. I've stood there at the counter. They just throw these things out of the refrigerator into the steaming cabinet. It's like an old freezer that you lift the lid on, one of those open top freezers, and just throw it in there and it's steaming. I don't know how that's generating the steam. It's all beat up. The lid's falling off. And I don't think they keep it in there for a full 3 hours. But I started tasting it immediately after like 30 minutes, and I tasted it again in 60 minutes, and within an hour it was really tender and juicy. I don't think it needs 3 hours, but it's pretty warm, and it's better warm than cold. I must confess that what's sitting in front of me is cold, and when that fat starts to coagulate, you know what? It's waxy. It's really tender and juicy, and what's the word, Greg? Succulent.
Succulent. That's right. It's really one of the best words ever. You can use it a number of different ways. One of the things that you had mentioned at the bottom of the list of things that we were going to be talking about was talking about corned beef and cabbage and the fact that it is not an Irish dish. I think you briefly touched on that somewhere in the middle of all of this, but can you just elaborate a little bit on the last 2 minutes that we have?
Well, I started researching it because I wanted to write about it for St. Patrick's Day. And you find it very quickly when you start Googling or when you pick up Irish cookbooks. That's the first thing they tell you is that corned beef really was not common in Ireland. Beef was a luxury product. Pork was common. Cattle had to eat grain, and grain had to be grown, and it was expensive. And if the Irish have their preferences, they're going to use their grain to make whiskey, not to grow cattle.
Who wouldn't?
Hogs eat scrap. So there was plenty of pork over there. Beef was scarce and expensive. It wasn't until they got to the United States and all the immigrants came into Manhattan. They came through the Statue of Liberty or past the Statue of Liberty through Ellis Island, and they were settled in Lower Manhattan. And a lot of these old places are like Katz's, the old Jewish neighborhoods, the Irish restaurants, some of them are still there. Jonas Schimmel makes knishes, which is I'm not even going to get into that. But it's just like up the block from Katz's. And they've been around since the 1800s. The Irish and the Jews were thrown together. And they traded cultures, and there was, since the Jews were butchers, many of them came over from Austria and Central Europe. They learned butchering. They made sausages. They made, prior to World War II, prior to Hitler, Central Europe was loaded with Jewish butchers, sausage makers, meat cutters, and the immigrants came over, and the Irish, they were often laborers. They built railroads, they built bridges, they built highways, they built buildings, and the Jews were the butchers often, and so the Irish learned to have corned beef rather than corned pork, which they were used to, and that just sort of took off. And for St. Patty's Day, they had corned beef and cabbage rather than corned pork and cabbage. But that's really quite common in this country and uncommon in Ireland. which is fascinating, isn't it?
Absolutely. Meathead Goldwyn joining us here on the show. We broke pastrami all the way down, upside down, and all the way around. You can find him AmazingRibs.com. If you ever want to ask him a question via email, meathead@AmazingRibs.com is his email address. At RibGuy on Twitter. You can also find him on Facebook as well. Meathead, always appreciate the conversation and the time that you make for the show, and look for you again next month.
This is fun, Greg. It's always a pleasure. And remember, no rules in the dining room or the bedroom.
That's right. Mostly the bedroom. Meathead joining us here on the show. All right, AmazingRibs.com is the website. 877-448-0433. Greg at the BBQ Central Show if you want to get in here as we wrap up the show, and we're going to do that here in just a second. Gang, let me remind you that the premier wood pellet out there on the market today is made by Barbecuer's Delight. Barbecuer's Delight has been making them since 94, I believe. Might be even a little sooner than that, but transitioning into the barbecuer world in 94. Candy Weaver, owner, also president of the Kansas City Barbecue Society. If you have a pellet cooker, I have a pellet cooker. A lot of people in the chat room have a pellet cooker. Hell, the guy that I had on the first hour just bought a pellet cooker. You need to get top-of-the-line fuel. And that's why you want to go to Barbecuer's Delight to get your wood pellet source. BBQRSDelight.com is the website. Peruse it. You're going to find all of the standard fare that you're going to normally cook with when it comes to barbecue. Hickory, oak, mesquite, apple. There's another one that I'm forgetting right off the top of my head. So all of the traditional stuff that you would normally put in a stick burner or wood chunks that you're going to cut up to put in your charcoal-driven / wood chunk smoke flavor cookers. Now you can get them in these pellets. They're dry. The water percentage is extremely low. They're very dense. They're going to burn and get off a nice, sweet smoke, and they burn clean. Now, maybe you do have one of these pellet cookers, and you're like, well, I don't have any attachment to make it into a pellet cooker or anything like that. Look, I appreciate what you're saying, but Candy has thought of that as well, and that's why you need to go to that website. You can get little sample packs, and within there, there's a little cast iron pot. You season that up, and you throw like a cup or two of wood pellets in there, and you'll stick it right on the coals, and it's going to burn those down. You're going to get that nice smoke, roughly about an hour or so per filled iron pot. And it's going to give you that nice, sweet smoke that you're looking for. And you don't have to mess around with those big chunks of wood. Now, maybe you want to get outside the box when it comes to flavor. Candy's already met you, cut you off at the pass, and is now taking you back to jail, thief, because she's got such items as sassafras. And she's got savory herb, which I completely love when you're putting meatloaf on the slow cooker. On the smoker. Did I say slow cooker? Sorry about that. You want to get that stuff because it imparts such a wonderful herby flavor of the meat. It's absolutely spectacular. Also, charcoal pellets. Burning at a higher BTU, you can use less pounds of pellets by using charcoal pellets. Made out of hardwood lump charcoal, kind of pressed down into that pellet. Look, just go to bbqrsdelight.com. That's bbqrsdelight.com and hook up with your pellets, whether it be for the small cookers or the big cookers. We'll be right back to wrap up right after this.
Get in the smoke. Call 877-448-0433 to get on the air. Now, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, we are back. 5 minutes till the top of the hour, 55 past the hour of 10 o'clock. Thanks to everybody for wishing me the 4th anniversary of the live show. God damn it. I do need to get some type of a person. Now with video. You know what? Let me do this. I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to go to the instant feedback here on the poll. Aside from some various screw-ups here, because I'm the only one running it now with various different camera angles, do you think this kind of a video, seeing people, me going back and forth, showing pictures, as somebody in the chat room, and I want to have every one of you, 28 or 30 of you in there right now, answer back yes or no. Do you think that this is a good idea? Is this bringing more to the show? If it's not bringing more to the show, I'm going to dump it. and it'll be off. We'll go right back to how it was 2 weeks ago. If you think it's going to bring good stuff to the show, right off to the side right there where it says trial vid blaster, that could be gone by the time next week. I actually might plop down and buy the actual license for this. All right, so we're getting a lot of yeses. The ugly bearded guy. Meathead, newsflash, that's you. Sorry. All right, so looks like the video will stay. Good. All right. We'll keep it. Anyway, fourth year, beginning of the fourth year for the live show, which I'm absolutely stoked about. I'm absolutely happy about. And it's great to continue along doing what we're doing. We're serving a niche. We found a show that has a format that is able to replicate itself week after week after week. Where did my takes go? I did want to mention, while I have not been talking a lot about competition barbecue over the last week, I mean, it's just been slow, right? In next week is the Sam's Club event that is going to be taking place in Tampa, Florida. So we'll be looking to have the winner on in there. I do have a lot of things that are lined up for the rest of the month. Plus, we're starting to get into almost spring, which means we're going to be unveiling the whole new BBQ Central. Man, I can hear that. I got to tighten that up. We're going to be ushering in a whole new year of barbecue roundtables. This year, it will. That's right, Winter Q is coming as well. Polar Bear is coming as well this month. So some really big competitions in February they're going to be looking for and getting winners on, of course. 877-448-0433, Greg at the BBQCentralShow.com, as we have about a minute and 21 seconds left. Some of you noticed that I did do a change of costume. And I'll have to credit Alan for one thing and then tell him to mind his own business on another. This is my mistake. I did not think that this was an American flag hat, but I kind of didn't realize that it is a Stars and Bars. And while I appreciate Billy Carroll for giving that to me, I'm not going to wear that. Get that big stuff out of here. I just don't believe in Stars and Bars. That's just me. I'm not trying to alienate anybody in the South that likes that or, still thinks slavery's cool or anything. Just kidding about that. So I'm going to go back to the fiery head do-rag, and we'll do there. Now, to Alan's other point that he emailed in, saying that me drinking during the show is a bad idea. Guess what? Wrong. Me drinking during the show is great, and any show that I drank in, which is far and few between, has been some of the best shows ever. Go back and listen to the Moonshine show where everybody was making me drink. We were having a great time. It was absolutely fantastic. So, things that we have learned. Me drinking, too bad. Get over it. Me wearing Stars and Bars, not going to happen. It's not. You know where it's not going to happen? Not up in here. I apologize for that, if anybody took offense. Lesson learned. Thanks to Alan for the first email. Piss off on your second email. Please don't leave me as a listener. I love you. Alan, I love you the most. All right, let me go ahead and wrap this up. First hour, we had a first-timer to the show, hitting on all cylinders. Sam, the cooking guy, thesamlivecast.com is his website. I will be checking him out tomorrow and Thursday right on my flat screen. I like him. I don't mind the fact that he swears. I think if you see me off air, I might swear as much as he does, maybe even a little bit more. I'm able to rein it in here on the show because I'm trying to make something of it. He's established. He's good. What can I tell you? I will definitely try and have him on the show. I thought he had some really great takes, some really good ideas about food. And this show, first and foremost, is a barbecue show, but secondly is a food show. We are foodies at heart, and he is somebody that I would absolutely love to get on the fold. Probably not going to be a recurring basis. He's very busy, but we can have him on again over time, so hopefully you like that. And then the second hour, we had Meathead. We talked about pastrami, curing and rinsing it and steaming it and chopping it. We talked about fake orgasms, what temperature to cook at, fat and point and flats and all of that stuff. We talked about Paula Deen diabetes. Craig is PD type 2. I think we pretty much covered it up. We agree that video is okay, so we're going to be keeping video as well. Two things. Helping to remind you to control the rusty grill grate population. If you have raw cast iron, you need to make sure you're seasoning it after each and every use to provide years of trouble-free service. We don't want rust to get on there. It grows like a cancer. Also, September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.